This episode is sponsored by Bigger Bash, Bigger City's 25th anniversary celebration in Las Vegas this year, September 6th through September 8th at the Palms Casino. Tickets are on sale now, and we'll hope to see you there.
Hello, and welcome to the Big Fat Gay Podcast, where we talk about the things that are weighing on our minds. I'm Trevor Keyson. I'm a super chub, and today I'm a meatball boy. I had some meatball sub for lunch. I am sated. I am round, and I am raring to go.
Oh boy.
He is a spicy meatball.
Hi, my name is Michael Willer. I am a chubby chaser, and, well, I suppose if we're going with a meat metaphor today, I am your perfectly cooked medium rare ribeye boy today. I had probably the bougiest breakfast I've ever had in my entire life this morning, which was leftover ribeye steak, and it was fucking delicious.
Hello, everybody. My name's Don. I'm a big chubby guy living here in sunny Hollywood, and I guess today I am your Wagyu beef of your hosts.
Oh my!
I am the one that must recline and be massaged at length while fed beer curd over the course of the day.
Why go you? My name is Dan Oliverio, author, public speaker, and chubby chaser. And yes, I had a very nice wiener for lunch.
What was his name?
Boar's Head. Boar's Head Jones.
That sounds filthy.
And
Thank you to our patrons, as always. You and our listeners, with your powers combined, we are able to do this podcast.
Yeah.
And
4.5 years.
provide exciting behind-the-scenes content like Cutting Room Floor, behind-the-scenes stuff, and minisodes.
Which Trevor and I have our upcoming minisode, which may, depending on how we do this, may or may not be coming out today. We'll see when we get to it.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I just got like dizzy.
Yeah, thinking into the future.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to talk about Dave the Diver, which we talked about the trailer on the podcast over a year ago.
That's the video game Dave the Diver
Dave the Diver
features fat characters as swimmers.
Yes, well, yes, exactly. There's a lot of fat characters in it. There's lots to talk about.
I love that. Because you were very apprehensive. I did not. Like
and you
are just so
well. Don't spoil it.
Okay, well, it's exciting. It's exciting.
There's a lot to talk about.
Yes.
Anyway, so Trevor and I are going to do that minisode coming up.
Yes. And it's counting down. We're getting closer and closer to Bigger Vegas.
That's right.
Not Bigger Vegas.
Bigger Bash.
Bigger Bash. Bigger Bash.
Bigger Bash.
Bigger Bash.
I felt the laser go on to my chest.
what'd you say?
September 6th to September 8th. We're all going. It's super exciting.
It loves the promo on its podcast.
Yay. Thank you also to the affiliates, Big Fig Mattresses and Bearskin underwear and swimsuits and shorts.
And shorts with pockets.
Shorts with pockets.
You know the deal. Promo code BigFatGayPod. Save 15% and support the podcast.
That's right. And you can use our affiliate link to Big Fig Mattresses on our website.
Yes.
Good job, everybody.
We did it.
We did it. All right. Into the show. That's right. 2 episodes in a row with mailbags. What a time to be alive. Who'd like to read this one?
I'll do this.
Dan, designated reader.
A listener writes, "Hello, I love the show. It helps with my daily job as a truck driver. Listening to you guys, laughing with you guys, helps my day fly by in an eagle." That was for you, Don.
Fly with an eagle.
I love the topics and everything you guys talk about. Wasn't sure if you guys already knew about this one artist. His name is Jordan Smith. He is a plus-size recording artist, incredibly talented, and an all-around amazing singer. One of the best songs he did, in my opinion, was for a Christmas album. I know it's a little past Christmas, but the song he did for Mary Did You Know is amazing. He performed it at the Grand Ole Opry to a sold-out audience, along with multiple talented artists. But to me, it was his performance that stood out the best.
So I didn't know Jordan Smith, but apparently Jordan Smith, a fat singer, won The Voice. So I don't watch The Voice, but I actually was at a live taping at one point, and I went and found Jordan Smith's performance on like the blind, basically when you first not audition, but you first perform for the judges. Blind.
The judges can't see you. You perform for them with their backs to you.
Right.
Like you're only a voice.
Yeah. And the whole gimmick is they turn around if they like you enough to want to. Anyway, so I saw him perform, and I'm curious what you guys think. So Jordan Smith, fat guy, has what I would call some I don't know, stereotypically gay traits, just like visually speaking.
Do you mean mannerisms or?
Yeah, like mannerisms. And again, stereotypically, I'm not saying that he is, just that a lot of people associate that. He is not gay. He is straight. But he had a song that he released after he won The Voice. It's called Stand in the Light. And if you read the lyrics, they're coded in such a way that you can kind of put whatever you want the meaning to be. So like, stand in light and be seen as we are. So his music is heavily Christian themed, and it's hard to tell because, I think we're all aware that Christianity can be a sticky subject for queer people in general. Like that's not always necessarily a great
controversy
thing. Yeah, I know. Hot take here. But the way that he talks about the song is that he wanted it to be something that people could kind of put their own meaning onto.
Oh, interesting.
And so I think for him, to me, I read the lyrics and I'm like, oh, clearly this is a Christian guy saying like, hey, I'm Christian. But I like that it's something that, for instance, if you're gay and you want to come out, this can be something you could relate to.
He did send a link to the song. I think we all gave it a listen.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mary, did you?
I got to say, I was
A link to a different song.
Yeah, the listener was talking about Mary, Did You Know?
Mary, Did You Know?
Specifically.
Yes.
But he's recorded a whole bunch of music.
Yeah. There's no denying the guy's talent. He's also pretty gorgeous.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good tip for sure.
And it's, never too early to start building your Christmas playlist.
There you go.
And also, I mean, Christmas in July is a thing. Famously, Rankin Bass, the Frosty dies. I mean, spoiler alert for Christmas in July.
He comes back. He
comes back.
Because there must have been some magic in that old silk hat he found for him to come back as he did.
Yeah. But I think it's a tribute to the guy's performance. Like, Mary, Did You Know is one of those songs that's a little too Christian for me to really enjoy over the holidays. But that performance was
stunning.
No.
Yeah, there's no argument.
There's a reason he won The Voice.
I don't know.
Let's be clear.
I am not a super religious person, but I mean, there are times where I'm just like, I do fall on my knees at Christmas time.
Spread eagle.
Honey, don't talk about our sex life.
To hear the angels' voices.
After the last episode we did.
To hear the angels what?
The voices.
The voices.
Night.
Hear the
divine.
angels sing.
It's so thank you for that. And
Jordan Smith.
Christmas is only like 287 days away, you people. Just
I want a new PlayStation. And moving on.
Okay. All right.
We're sliding out.
Who's doing this?
I'll set it up, and this is one of those things where I always love
This is one of those articles where I read the article, finished it, and went like, I'm clearly missing something because this is the biggest no duh.
Let's set it up.
This is from News Medical, the very news, your source for news that is medical.
And I feel obliged to point out that guess what? It's British.
And this is a study: text messages with financial rewards boost weight loss in obese men, study finds. I like, because I recently did kind of a catalog of like all of the stuff we've done on the podcast. It was a labor of love, but I got to see things like this where we talked about programs like this in episode 3 of the podcast. Episode 3, Play Dumber. We didn't really do bits, but at the end of the episode, we talked about a Uber driver that was telling me about a plan similar to this that he had done.
So the study that they set up was you have 3 groups of men specifically. They wanted to focus on men who were not engaging in weight loss. And they wanted to test for if receiving daily text messages over the course of a year would encourage them to lose weight. B, if a separate group receiving daily text messages along with financial incentives, like literal cash rewards for hitting certain milestones over the course of the year would encourage weight loss. And then you have your control group, which is just a group of guys.
They
basically just said, hey, you're on our waiting list. And then, checked in with them a year later.
Twice over the course of a year.
And by the way, because you've heard me talk about retention rates in studies, guess what? The group with the highest retention rate was the group who was asked to stand by and do nothing for a year.
And there's a shocker.
The group with the highest dropout rate by a factor of about 10%, 9 or 10%, was the group of men who were receiving text messages but no financial reward, basically being harangued,
being nagged,
and finally got fed up with it. So the result was that there was a 3.4% weight loss in the men who were receiving financial rewards, and they say this in the article, but it feels like statistically insignificant.
Yeah.
Like 3.4% weight loss over the course of a year.
I actually would have expected it to be much higher just based on, I think if they actually increased the money award, I think the money award for like 1 year, if you got the weight off and kept it off for a full year, was $150.
It was 400 pounds. And then they had, over the course of the year, they also had like little bonuses.
Yeah.
So but it's not a huge amount of money. I mean, over a year they had, and each group had about 195 men in it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of,
and remember, it's a 3.2%, like the best group, which is the daily harassment and financial support for the harassment, is 3.2%. That's the average. So, yep, one person might have lost double that.
Yeah.
Wow.
And one person, didn't lose any.
Yeah.
So it's
gained 30 as a protest.
it's such a strange thing. Cause like, what are they trying to get to? Like, are they trying to prove that you should pay people to lose weight?
No, what they're trying to do is, first of all, it's always focused on the cause of everything bad is fat.
Right.
So given that we all agree on that, they proceed with so how can we get people to be less fat? And so this is an investigation into, is it worthwhile paying people to diet? Because at the end of this rainbow is it more cost effective to treat fat people or pay people not to be fat?
Right.
That's where this is going.
My thing that gets me about this is I know a lot of people who kind of in childhood had this kind of incentive from parents or grandparents.
Yep. Yeah.
Where it's like, and one where it was like
making your allowance dependent on weight loss.
Or as like a reward where $1 per pound and then $10 bonus at every like 10-pound milestone. And it's like, there's so many layers to that, but it also is just like ignoring the fact that like the factors of like, there are multiple things going on in someone's body where it's not just gonna be like, okay, well, I'll just like fat, stop. Stop fat production now. Engage weight loss protocols. I think also like just there's so many layers to this of like the idea of like people hate fat people as it is. And if like fat people were getting paid to lose weight, the outrage from like the people that are like, well, just lose weight. And then it's like, but not like that because I didn't get paid and I'm not
it's
fat.
always, but not like that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's sort of like the most extreme version of like, oh, you didn't earn it.
Yes.
Not only did you not earn it, but you got paid for it. Go fuck yourself twice.
Which is so ironic because like, yes, they literally earned it. That was the contract. They literally earned it. And you resent that they earned it, but not the way you think they should earn it. And it's this insane. Okay. And if you really zoom out, how do you feel about paying kids for good grades?
Yeah.
How do you feel about paying employee or the whole thing of participation trophies? Or how do you feel about in the adult world? How do you feel about bonuses for meeting your marks, your sales marks, for example? Isn't that your job, or should you be bonused on that? How far of a? And it's just this. So that you're in this world of, is it even valid to financially compensate? We can even bring tipping into this, and then you're asking the question, well, does it work better? Does getting rid of fat people work better if we shame them or pay them?
Yeah.
Should we use carrot or stick?
Yeah. Or I feel like in this case, it's both. Is it one or both?
So I've actually had this conversation in the past with in a lot of different contexts. When I throw out this piece of information, it's caused a lot of people to pause for a moment. So when I was a little kid, my mom was very, very religious and I was very much not, right? So she started paying me to go to church.
There you go.
Okay. That's something.
Jesus saves,
Yeah. Now, a lot of people were always like, yeah, paying your kid to lose weight. Yeah, that makes sense. He puts in the good, puts in good behavior, get that going. But when they found out that she was doing that with paying me to go to church, that made people really uncomfortable.
Isn't that funny?
It's really interesting how so I don't know why that is. I'm not going to make any
because everyone agrees that everyone should lose weight. Therefore, it's always a good thing.
Well, and you see this, I mean, the other thing that's like absolutely, without doubt, study after study shows the most cost-effective way to keep people off drugs or to keep people who are at risk of teen pregnancy from stopping, you pay them. Like they have to check in every week, and every week they check in and they're not on drugs, or every week they check in and they're not pregnant, they get $7, they get $20. And it is so friggin' cheap and effective, but people hate that we're paying people to do this. And so it has this mind fuck. And that's even apart from what you think of weight loss. You know, it's just that we have this really warped sense of, we already have a warped sense of money when it comes to earning and worth and all that. Mm-hmm. And then you apply it to fat people, who is an absolutely hated group. And like I said, it's always, but not that way. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You lost weight, but that was the wrong way. You lost weight, but for the wrong reason. You lost weight, but it's always the wrong way.
I find it's handy to confront people on who they consider to be worthy and why.
Yes.
For assistance, because those same people that are against, any sort of help for single mothers or, fat people or sick people or whatever, usually don't bat an eye at the concept of like a corporate bailout.
Oh, absolutely. We need them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the joke is it's only socialism when it goes to people.
Wasn't it last episode where I promised we weren't going to be a political podcast?
This is economics.
Corporations are people too, except when they're not.
Yeah, except when they're immortal and cannot go to prison.
I mean, anyway. I guess kind of on the same thread in some ways.
Yeah. So in Pink Villa, we have an article by Chauvin Roy, starting with a quote: "Most insulting fucking thing. Kelly Osborne reveals how TV exec told her she could be a star if she loses weight."
When did this happen?
Well, this happened a while ago, but then was reported on and she talked about more recently.
Yeah, she talked about it recently on a podcast. Okay.
I recently I just quickly want to give a little rundown about, like, for people who don't know who Kelly Osborne is. So Kelly Osborne is the daughter of the famed singer Ozzy Osbourne, but kind of became a public figure in 2002 when the Osbournes had their reality show on MTV that was The Osbournes.
Yeah. And it launched her and her brother into the public.
Yes. Eye. They have another daughter who didn't appear in the show. She was in like a couple episodes, but she didn't want to be part of the show. So she's just like in the background and like, I am not taking part in this.
Oh, good for her.
Kelly also had a kind of like musical career. Famously, she covered Madonna's Papa Don't Preach, which came out in 2002, the same time as the show, and was actually, I think, like filming the music video, I think, was maybe part of the show. And then released an album that was on Shut Up. And then she went on the talk show Fashion Police. She was one of the panelists. She was on Project One Runway Junior Australia. Project Runway Junior and then Australia's Got Talent.
Okay.
And was in Dancing with the Stars. And like her weight kind of fluctuated a lot as an adult. And then more recently, she lost a lot of weight and has kept it off.
Mm-hmm. So I feel like this is almost like an inciting incident for the rest of this stuff, because it was early on, back in 2003. So right after the Osbournes was on the air, or newly on the air, she got a role in the Disney movie Freaky Friday.
Oh yeah.
I have seen Freaky Friday a good amount, and I'm like, I don't remember this.
Well, that's because there's 37 Freaky Fridays.
I think there was a TV version made too. I think that's what happened.
2003. I feel, well, anyway. And so, during, you get this role, and like as an actor, you're going to be around a lot of producers, executives, people who are basically vetting you for that project and any future projects that might come up. And during one of these meetings, one of these male executives just directly told her, like, you're going to have to lose weight if you want to have any chance of making it in Hollywood, which... Look, like,
but they tell that to Twiggy, they tell that to
like, it's not that it's not a problem. That is such a common problem that it's almost like, water is wet. Like, it's terrible, but also that is so prevalent out here. And I'm not sure that's really changed.
And it's not true.
Oh, no, it's certainly not
it's
true.
Certainly not true.
It's ridiculous. And
it's his personal little fantasy about how TV should be.
Yeah, but he's in the position of power in this case, has the authority to give her more work or ruin her career.
Yep.
So what is she going to do at this point? She's I don't even know how old. She was like a teenager.
And given that all of public opinion sort of lines up behind this advice.
Yeah.
That's the bad part. It's like what's coming out of his mouth may be his own personal bullshit, but when you have the entire weight of mass media behind him.
I think the incredible thing, though, is that she, as Trevor pointed out, has been able to have a career and rise above this and do what she's wanted to do in the way she's wanted to do it. It just really sucks when stuff like this comes out, and it's one of those like slap in the face reminders of like, oh yeah, this is how this is going to happen for you. I mean, I bet they told that to Daisy Ridley when she got cast for Star Wars, and she's rail thin.
Yeah, 100%.
Like it's
and more recently with superhero movies, they tell it to male stars.
Yeah, absolutely. Which actually,
we finally reached equality.
Well, so I saw, this is not related, but I saw an article about, so there's a Deadpool movie that Hugh Jackman is reprising his role as Wolverine for. Mm-hmm. And famously, he has talked a lot about how much he hates having to work out to get into Wolverine superhero shape. Mm-hmm. Like he does it. He's very good at it. People idolize him for it, but he was like done with that. And so he comes back to play this role that he was not intending to do. Again, he has a full body, like the classic yellow Wolverine suit for the movie.
Costume, yeah.
And I'm curious if they are going to have a shirtless scene for him in this movie, or if they're going to just let him be in the suit and not have to fully, shred
I
his
could
body.
even see Ryan Reynolds doing a joke with like a body double switch at some point.
That would be hilarious.
I could see him doing it.
I think it's so interesting. I don't know, looking back at the Osbornes and Kelly and Jack and everything, because they were a fat family on TV.
Yeah.
Sharon Osbourne, I think famously was like a Weight Watchers spokesperson at some point.
Oh, wow.
Because she has really kind of struggled to manage her weight to her, liking. And then recently actually talked about Ozempic and like taking Ozempic, but that like she felt like it went too far.
Oh.
Like she lost too much weight.
Interesting.
I think it is just from a lifetime of like being a public figure, and also they're British, so there is that baked in weird high scale fat phobia.
Yeah.
And I'm curious like what it would be like for Kelly and the all the Osbournes if like the timeline were shifted and they were public figures now, would she have been able to like be a young fat woman and a public figure and not be criticized? I mean, she'd still be criticized because, everything's fat.
But she'd be criticized for a different thing.
It is interesting reading this article now, because all I remember really around the time with discussions of her and her brother were how fat they were. That's all I remember being talked about with that show. Those are the only, and that they both seemed kind of dumb. Like those are the only comments. Mm-hmm. So like, what a freaking nightmare for her. But,
what a great public opinion.
But this...
Well, and remember, it's been edited to look like that, too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Any smart moments would be edited out.
Well, and scripted. But I don't know. Justice for Kelly Osborne. I mean, there's also a whole lot of like problematic Kelly Osborne stuff since then. But for like, I don't know, young Kelly Osborne just being thrust into the public space.
Yeah. Nobody needs that. All right.
We're soaring.
I feel like low note
2024.
Really
yeah. When I think maybe the fan just clicked on.
Yeah, I actually got a gust of wind right then.
Yay.
We're here. Fat Watch 2024. And a piece from The Conversation called Stop Asking Me If I've Tried Keto. Why weight stigma is more than just being mean to fat people. And this is by Megan Lindelof, Angela Meadows, and Rachel Calagero.
And the publication is The Conversation.
Yes.
Yeah. And it certainly is. It's nothing. If you're fat, this is no news.
Yes.
It's basically like, gosh, there are these microaggressions, but the innovation here is we've categorized them.
Yeah, and I like that they've categorized them kind of in two separate ways, which are kind of like the direct. How do they put it?
I think there are four. There are four types, aren't there?
Well, I was thinking because they maybe
they've categorized them sort of.
You're thinking of okay. Yeah, I was thinking more on they have like direct microaggressions and like indirect ones, and then underneath those they have examples.
Yeah.
But so like it's like obvious stuff that you would think of like somebody comes up to you and says something really insulting about your weight. That's a direct microaggression. That's what most people can identify that as something that is a bad thing. I would say, like, if you confronted them about it, they say, oh yeah, that was insulting. But then there's indirect ones that are like, for instance, like clothing exclusion. Like you have a hard time finding clothes that are enjoyable, that fit you properly, that present you well in professional environments because they don't exist.
Or thin friends complaining about their own fatness in front of you, a fat person.
Right. So, and like that's not about you per se, but it is also still a microaggression that, it's like death by 1,000 paper cuts. Yeah. It's like, I said paper cuts. That's how I imagine it in my head, is that it's paper cuts.
Yeah. I'm not sure you're wrong.
That's accurate.
No, that's right.
Death by 1,000 cuts, I thought it was.
Yeah, it's death by 1,000 cuts, but the cuts that are imagined are any one of them is easily ignored, but 1,000 of them is what makes it terrible.
Well, anyway, glad I was right about that.
Take the win. Move on.
The thing I particularly like about this article, though, is that the women who wrote it, the people who wrote it, one of whom is a PhD candidate in psychology, one of them is a lecturer in psychology, and the other is a chair professor of psychology. So they're bringing just this perfectly packaged, thoroughly researched article with a lot of external links that you can follow. And it's one of those, I feel like a lot of great Fat Watches are about, if you need to hand somebody something that just fully encapsulates everything you need them to know in a perfectly packaged way that's thoroughly researched, this is just a prime candidate.
It is. And, but the thing that's lying in the bushes, ready to pounce behind all this stuff, is the comeback to an article like this or microaggressions, which is, well, if you don't like it, stop being fat. Like the idea is that the microaggression is the victim's fault because they should stop they should stop embodying the thing that we're making fun of, or that if get thinner and you can wear the rest of the clothes, or if you didn't eat so much, people wouldn't say that, and if you weren't so ugly, people wouldn't notice that. And it really goes to the heart of this. It's such a deep, deep pool, but the heart of it is whether being fat is treated as an identity or a condition.
Right.
Because it's one of the few conditions that changes. And because it can change, we also as human beings ascribe blame or blamelessness.
Yeah.
Right? So if somebody gets a dread disease, the first thing we look for was it their fault?
Yeah. What did they look like?
Yeah. Well, what did they look? Yeah. Was it their fault? Like that's why you get these things where childhood cancer, right? Most people are pretty comfortable not blaming the kid. Mm-hmm. But if it's an older person with cancer, it's well, what did they do?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I like that this is, like Michael said, very much something where if your mom is doing something and you're tired of having the same argument, you can here, just take a look at this. Mm-hmm. And it's pretty in-depth, but also pretty manageable.
There's no excess wording in here.
Yeah.
No, and what I like about it is even if they disagree, at least they will understand your point of view without your having to be there to get hammered by it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're back with another very special episode of the Big Complicated Podcast. So a couple episodes ago, we talked about the episode of Blanche's Little Girl,
The Golden
Girls, and kind of analyzed that. And we talked about the actress who played Blanche's daughter in that, Shawn Sheps. She went on to wrote some films and wrote some television, including an episode of the show Drop Dead Diva.
Mm-hmm. So the actress who played the fat daughter went and wrote this episode of Drop Dead Diva.
Yes.
You're probably going to tell us what Drop Dead Diva is about.
Yes. So Drop Dead Diva is a Lifetime show from, I want to say a couple years ago, but it's probably a decade ago now.
I think it's early 2000s.
Oh, God.
Is it 20 years old?
It's from 2009.
Okay. Oh, my bones. I just turned 35, people. I've had a lot of this kind of just painful psychic damage. But so Drop Dead Diva follows a aspiring model named Deborah Deb Dobkins, who was killed in a car crash on her way to audition for The Price is Right. And she gets to heaven, is told by a gatekeeper of heaven that she basically lived such a kind of vapid life that she did no good deeds and no bad deeds. And is going to kind of be in purgatory. And she freaks out, escapes from heaven, and presses the return to earth button.
Comedy ensues.
Yes. But unfortunately for her, She ends up in the body of someone who works at the same law firm as her boyfriend, who is shot in a like kind of revenge. There was a law thing. She ends up in the body of a fat attorney
named Jane,
who works at the same law firm as her, kind of now former boyfriend.
Okay, so you got Deb, the model, killed, comes back to Earth in the body of a fat attorney
named Jane.
Yes. And as punishment for letting her escape heaven, the guy who she met in heaven is now assigned to be kind of her guardian angel on Earth to make sure she doesn't get into any trouble. Jane ends up telling her best friend from her former life that it's me in this new body. And she's now thrust into the world of law and trying to navigate life in a fat body, but also so close to her former love.
So just for the clarity of the conversation, we're going to refer to this character as Jane.
Yes.
It is Deb. The person in the body is just Deb.
Yes.
Jane died. Unfortunately, she ascended to heaven. She is gone. Deb is now inhabiting Jane's body.
Yes.
And we're going to talk to her as Jane, the character.
Thank
you. Just to make that totally clear. If there's a lot going on.
Yes. And I feel like it is a little
Fix it in post.
Yeah.
It's fine.
A little confusing on TV, and it's very confusing when you remove the visual aspect.
Yeah. So Jane is fat. She's a lawyer. And this particular episode is the 7th episode of season 1.
Yes.
So the idea is that in this episode, Jane receives a new case at her law firm. And this case is about, a mother comes to her and says, my daughter got in this new weight loss program by
Gillian Ford,
which is a great mashup of a lot of the uber fitness dieter women of the day, like Susan Powder.
It feels also very
Gillian Jacobs.
Gillian
Jacobs and who's the actress? The Goop actress.
Oh, Gwyneth
Paltrow. Yeah. That's who she was acting like. Yeah, she was channeling little Gwyneth Paltrow there. Yeah.
So this woman releases her weight loss regimen, which is these foods, these like bars and shakes and things. And the woman's daughter, who was fat, requests that, please, Mom, please get me a 12-month subscription to this plan. I really want to lose weight. And the mother, sort of feeling bad for her daughter, agrees. Her daughter does this. She drops a ton of weight. And then she has a cardiac event while she's at school, ends up being rushed to the hospital. And they discover that she has this heart arrhythmia now, which she did not have before losing all of this weight rapidly.
And then, so they go to test the bars, and it turns out the bars, these supplements, have inordinate amounts of stimulants and caffeine.
Yeah, it's as they put it in the show, it's basically speed. With very little nutritional value.
Which is not really a fiction. I think that's pretty common in a lot of these sort of weight loss bars, isn't it?
No, not in the weight loss bars, but there were like definitely diet pills like Trim. There were a lot of diet drinks and diet pills that were basically caffeine.
Okay. I thought I thought a lot of those older shakes did it in the 80s and 90s and stuff.
No, they were meant to be filling, like Slim Fast.
Okay.
So the sort of the crux, there's a lot of plots going on in this episode, but the crux of this plot is that the daughter is angry with the mother, with her mother, for bringing this lawsuit up at all. The daughter has lost weight, and her life, she feels, is better now.
Yes.
She's treated better. She has friends. I think she said she has a boyfriend. Is that right?
And she's gonna wear a dress that she only dreamed of wearing before.
Yeah, 6 sizes ago.
They do a very good job of sort of like illustrating things we've gone over on the podcast of why losing weight can make you feel like the world is a better place.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
People treat you differently. And this episode leans into that hard.
It's that thing of like, I must be a better person because the world is treating me better.
They come at it from many different angles and lots of different ways. And I really appreciated that because it made that experience very clear, I think, for a non-fat audience, someone who maybe hasn't experienced that.
Let's just finish the plot summary first, and then we can discuss. So the upshot of this plot line is that they go to court. Jane is... They're suing.
Prosecutor. She's the attorney for the prosecution.
Right. So she's the attorney for the prosecution. They are suing
the plaintiff. Yeah.
The plaintiff. And they discover that Gillian has secretly gotten bariatric surgery because the whole reason she's able to sell these products is because she lost the weight using her own regimen, and therefore it's this great pitch to people to go out and do the same. But she actually secretly got bariatric surgery, lost the weight, and then created this and basically used her own weight loss to advertise falsely. And with the added, detriment that these things are actually dangerous for people to take.
Let me interject this. Just let me add one plot point that you skipped over on this one that I thought was an interesting choice that they could only do in this show, ironically. There is a revelation halfway through that Jane, the woman who lived in Jane's body before Deb got there from heaven, had participated in this weight loss program, filmed a testimony about how happy she was about it. And so you have this scene where Deb in Jane's body makes the discovery of what Jane's experience of this was.
You have her, you have Jane, the old Jane, talking about how great it was that she did the exact same weight loss program, lost the weight, and was so happy about it.
Yeah.
And so Deb, who was in her past life this thin, beautiful woman, gets to sort of see what the experience of Jane was firsthand.
And that, I think, was one of the core conceits of the show that worked well. But you don't see it in the episode that we're watching right now. But I've watched the series. And over the course of the series, it's about a woman who has no respect for fat women, becoming a fat person and going through the journey of figuring out what that's like and learning respect, learning dignity, and that sort of thing.
Which I think is also the journey of a lot of fat people who were formerly very down on themselves for being fat and who kind of decided like, wait a minute, I don't have to do that.
Yeah. I mean, when I was watching Jane, when I was watching the show, it was during a phase when I was going through a lot of this stuff that was happening on the show. And that's one of the things that's a little hard about watching the show again now is that I'm sort of past I'm dealing with these in different ways now than I did then. So there's something about this that feels like it's like watching gay movies from the 80s and 90s where you feel like everything there is an apology for being gay or please stop hurting me just because I'm gay. Where it's like, this is a language that I'm not comfortable with anymore because we've moved past this for myself.
But at the time you were like, yeah.
For me, that was my experience.
Yeah, no, I think that's very accurate. Yeah.
Well, and at the time it was groundbreaking to have a fat lead in a TV show.
Absolutely.
And having a fat woman acting like she is not fat.
Right. Because, of course, the character of Deb wasn't fat. Why would she act fat?
Yeah.
Even if she's in Jane's body.
Yeah.
This episode that we're talking about is from the first season. There is like episode 2 where they kind of, the first episode and second episode, there is more like, I'm in this new body and what is this like? But they still, I feel like the show is, there's a lot more that they could dig into, but they just kind of breeze past a lot of fat related stuff.
In that vein, I found it interesting. So the B plot for this episode is that one of the other lawyers, who is this sort of your stereotypical kind of like high powered, dominant female personality, is being sued for harassment. And the crux of the harassment suit was that she took her assistant into a side room, allegedly. And this was during a party, she had grabbed a piece of cake from the party and was eating the cake in this like overtly sexual kind of seductive way. And so even though her storyline is about her being sued for harassment, wrongfully, as we find out, the grounding of it is that she ate dessert sexually and enjoyed it. And it sort of has
she's eating this massive piece of chocolate cake and enjoying it as if she's making love to it.
Right.
Which forms the basis of the sexual harassment suit and also is an interesting commentary on just our relationship to food.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
she says like, in self-defense, she's like, I don't allow myself to indulge, but when I do, I just go all in.
And I enjoy it. Yeah, I enjoy it.
Yeah.
But she's having to say this as a defense of her behavior, which is seen as this like illicit, kind of dirty, trashy behavior. Like how could you do that? And I don't think it's an accident that that's the jumping off point for the sexual harassment suit. Like it could have been a bunch of things.
No, it's very tightly crafted to all sort of, as sitcoms do. They try to tie the better ones try to tie things thematically. The A plot and the B plot usually have a thematic resonance. But yeah, I just thought it was a really brilliant job by Sean Sheps, the teleplay writer or the episode writer. And I'm assuming, given that she is she at least was a fat actress, that she has a lot to say about this and is coming from a really interesting perspective for that reason.
Yeah.
There was one throwaway beat that I thought I feel like it's intentional, but I wasn't sure why they did it. The C storyline, that's the one that is the storyline that is not the A or the B. It's the very small one in the background.
Yeah.
Which is usually 2 scenes in a sitcom.
Yeah. Her best friend, Stacy,
her roommate,
her roommate, who's a gorgeous, conventionally attractive blonde model, is going out in a bikini for a motor oil ad.
Yes.
And before she leaves for the audition, she looks at herself side-eye in the mirror, posing in her bikini, and goes like, "Oof, got to lose 4 or 5 pounds."
I think he's actually 3.
Yeah, or something like that.
Got to lose those awful 3 pounds.
Yeah. But then at the end, like, we don't really get another bite at that apple until the end of the episode when she comes back and tells a story where she was told by a producer that she would have to lose weight for the role, and she told him to fuck off.
Yeah.
Right?
And you got to they show her in the bikini. It is ridiculous to think that she could need to lose weight. Absurd.
Yeah.
This is actually an actress who went on to be cast as a superhero in the modern age and didn't have to lose any weight to do it.
Yeah.
So
right. And she inhabits, they cast her to be a model in the show, and she very much has that look.
Yeah.
She's not just some actress who's kind of faking it as much. She looks
like a runway underwear model.
Yeah. They tried to contrast the lead actress. They tried to give us 2 very opposite body types.
But I thought it was an interesting resolution to that storyline, because the way it ended was that she got the offer to do the ad. She won the audition.
Did she? I thought she didn't book it.
No, she booked it, and then they told her, but you need to lose 5 pounds.
Yeah. So she said,
and then
fuck 'em.
she said, fuck you,
Yeah.
I'm not doing that, and left.
Yeah.
And when she came back to tell Jane about it at the end of the episode, on her way through, she picks up like these little like candies, I think, or like
I couldn't tell what they
little
were.
like treats, or like there was something that was kind of in a bowl in their apartment that she picks up and she's eating while she's relaying the rest of the story to Jane. But most of the episode is really focused on Jane's experience of the lawsuit.
What I thought was interesting, my first reaction, and I think this is maybe like a guy thing, I don't know, was like, well, why, like, you said you had to lose weight, and then they said it, and like you disagreed, and then of course at the end of it, I'm like, well, wait, yeah, it's okay for her to say it, you know, like, yeah.
Well, and also I think it's functionally holding a mirror up to that behavior. Like, if you're looking at it from the screenwriter's perspective, you are the single voice sort of puppeteering all of these characters. And so if you want to make a point about how it's not okay to have to tell people to lose those few pounds, you start with the character saying it about themselves and then show how they realize by the end, actually, no, I don't like that, by saying it to the producer who told her that themselves.
Which again is that the journey you were talking about earlier, Don, where when she begins her journey at the beginning of the episode, it's fine. And then she's like, hey, wait a minute.
Yeah. I just feel like we missed a step. Like there was like a touchstone in the middle.
It's the C plot.
Yeah.
So I'm curious of everyone's reactions too. So there's a point after Jane discovers that old Jane was on this diet. Yeah. She goes to her doctor to ask to like investigate.
Yeah.
She's like, I don't have these memories, but I know that this happened. So she goes to ask her doctor about the diet. And when she brings up the diet, the doctor's like, oh, Jane, not this again.
Don't be so down on yourself.
And talking about Jane's history of trying all these diets and them not being successful. And don't tell me you're going to ask about weight loss surgery again.
I told you don't need to do that.
I have to say, like, I want that doctor.
Of course.
It's like the perfect doctor.
What a lovely fantasy doctor.
It was. It really was. It was like the doctor was like, oh, I can't believe you want gastric bypass again.
Yeah, it was such I was like, in this show about somebody who went to heaven and then came back as somebody else, that's the most unbelievable part in it.
That the doctor's like, I'm not even going to let you see a flyer about weight loss.
The brochures.
Yeah.
And it was nice, but it was also just so like, I agree. It is the most absurd.
It's even more than that though, if I may. So why she goes to her doctor ostensibly to check this out. And the doctor, they obviously have a very intimate relationship. They're more than just doctor-patient. There's clearly a friendship there. I don't know if they see each other around the office, but there's a lot of like questions that you would normally just ask a friend. Like, okay. So she's like, everything seems fine. Your blood pressure's a little up. And as a fat person, the first thing you're thinking is blood pressure high, need to lose weight. And the doctor says, well, your blood pressure's a little high. Are you anxious about anything?
Yes.
Yeah. Is there something going on that you're anxious about?
It's like, and then Jane says, well, there is something going on. And the doctor says, something
or someone. And it's so here's what I was curious about with that particular scene, because it is such a departure from reality in ways that the other elements of the episode is very, very grounded.
It's freaking Star Trek. We live in the future in a perfect world with no money,
So my question is, do you think Sean wrote that into the episode as a kind of like surprise candying for the fat people watching?
I think it was in theater. In theater, it's what's called a Brechtian moment.
Yeah,
I think by just knocking everyone out of the moment and just out of the scene, going like, what the fuck am I watching? but makes you understand, like, oh right, this is what it should be.
But it's only Brechtian for people who've gone through that.
Yes.
For the regular thin people, they're like, wow, well, she isn't even talking about her disease.
Right. But that must be the point.
Yes.
Right? Like
That's the point.
That's so
That's
smart.
the point.
Yeah.
That is so brilliant.
It's kind of genius. Yeah.
Yeah. That is it's a really well written episode.
I mean, yeah, shout out to Sean Sheps. That's the woman who wrote this. It's
Yeah.
So like overall, like I think Drop Dead Diva is a little bit dated now, but I think it still holds up. Like its heart is still there. And I think it's like some of the articles that we deliver to you for you to pass on to your mom. This may be a good show for your mom to help understand what your life is like.
It's such a mom show.
It is a mom show. This is custom made for Lifetime.
I feel like the only thing that makes it maybe not a mom show is so you can watch. I don't think the show's. I don't know if it's on streaming services. This is on YouTube, on like Sony's YouTube. The whole series is on YouTube, except I think like a couple of episodes randomly have disappeared. So I think like the second episode of season 1, where they really kind of like is like the most they really dig into Deb adjusting to Jane's fat body. And actually, the episode is about like one of the cases is Jane defending a waitress who was fired after gaining 50 pounds. And I think also Jane just like learning, Deb Jane learning to go shopping for Jane's body.
Yeah,
interesting.
But it's weird because it's like I know the show, I've seen the show, but it is still weird just dropping in and being like, oh, like. She's fat and it ain't no thing really.
Yeah.
Like it's so bizarre.
How did you feel going back and watching this 15 years later?
I mean, I think I was like expecting more badness, like more ickiness. And I was just kind of like, oh, okay, like it's
not.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's not a lot of ick in the show.
No.
In the series, you mean?
In the series. Yeah. I was kind of surprised by that too.
And I was also surprised that like there's a lot of things that I feel like would be dug into more now, where it's like we're not really like, but also it's just I feel like a Lifetime show of that era. So it's like, of course, that is how they would dig in.
Well, and like one of the things, like the moment where she finds about the gastric bypass, I think that like really landed. But it was also one of those moments where it's like, it's under supported. Like we know, like now we know like gastric bypass was a life-threatening thing. It was dangerous. It was risky. I mean, it was problematic. And like, I thought the actress did a really good job of like, oh wait, this woman I've been making fun of, like this was where she was at. She was considering risking her life for something. And I didn't respect that.
Well,
Just the fact that they managed to try and cram that into one moment with one look, but not do it or address it on the show.
Well, but I think they did, because that is exactly the same argument that's made about the diet bars, is that you would do anything to be thin. You would literally die to be thin.
Yeah. They just didn't underline it the way that I think they would have.
Well, because in the day, it wasn't. It was weight loss surgery in that era was seen the way Ozempic is seen now. It's like, well, why isn't everybody getting it? I I mean, we on this podcast, we covered an NPR article talking about how, fat children aren't getting enough gastric bypass.
I kind of the opposite reaction because I felt like it was kind of funny to me to see and she had weight loss surgery. They yank off the scarf
smoking gun.
Everyone is like, really well. It's like, witch, she's a witch. Like everyone's pointing and trying.
That is true.
It's like, once again, because they have so little time to really unpack it that it's like such kind of a fever dream.
They needed their trump card for the lawsuit because they were losing it.
Well, yes, and they needed a trump card. And the whole thing, and I don't know if this pulls up in the series, but I don't know the series, but this particular episode and the character reminds me so much of Legally Blonde.
Yeah.
Because the character, remember the new inhabitant of the fat body is this ditz, but she also has this legal expertise, which apparently the body has granted her by virtue of the fact that we won't look at that hard. But the thing of it is, it's so much like in Legally Blonde, where the secret they must not let out is that the woman that's in jail, I mean, the thing that would exonerate her, but we can't say it, is that she had a butt lift. She had butt implants. So because she's selling the butt blaster, but she didn't. That's not how she got her butt. She got her butt from butt implants. Mm-hmm. And the win of Legally Blonde is that Elle, the lawyer, does not disclose that, keeps the secret, and still gets her off because of the secrets of hair care management.
Right, naturally. Just to close the loop on the, so we don't give people plot payoff blue balls. They win the lawsuit.
Yes.
Yeah. And in winning the lawsuit, the daughter realizes, kind of, I don't want to say the error of her ways, but realizes that her anger is misplaced against her mom.
And what does that is that, she's a fraud. She never lost the weight on these bars.
Right.
Yeah.
That these bars are a lie. Mm-hmm. And you're a victim here. You're not to blame for this.
I kept waiting because I just feel like I don't know now, or just because of my, I'm so scared of things that she's like, the moment was going to be like, Mom, can I have weight loss surgery?
No, they go to lunch. It's so great. She says, they have this reconciling moment after the case is closed. And then the daughter goes, do you want to get some lunch? And the mom's like, yeah.
I'd really like that.
I'd really like that.
It is also worth mentioning that we haven't mentioned it yet, that the mom is played by Kathy Najimy.
Yes, exactly what I want to say.
Who is a really glorious fat icon from the 90s.
Yeah, she's amazing.
She's wonderful. Do we have a tip for the day?
Yes, we do have a tip. It's last call. Lights coming on. Bar stool's going up. It is your last chance to watch Your Fat Friend on Jolt. Mm-hmm. June 17th is your last call. Mm-hmm. Last chance. It's the last dance.
Your Fat
Friend, the documentary. I had it in the notes, but I wasn't looking at my notes.
Yeah.
Check it out. And then I'm sure it'll find a home at some point on another streaming service. But support the film and see it on Jolt.
How about a bit?
We do have a bit. So today I thought we would since we're talking about a show where a woman ends up changing everything to get what she wants. Let's talk about some people who were told they needed to change things about themselves and said, fuck you, and went ahead and succeeded anyway.
Okay.
So Kirsten Dunst was thrust into the spotlight when she was cast as the lead of Tom Cruise's Interview with a Vampire when she was 12 years old and has been working in this spotlight ever since. As someone who's always being judged for appearance, she had no problem shutting down producers on the Spider-Man movie when they approached her and tried to pressure her to change her 1, hair color, 2, teeth, 3, breast size, or 4, cheeks.
I think teeth.
Meaning facial cheeks.
I'm going for teeth.
Breasts.
I'm torn between cheeks and teeth, but I'm going to say cheeks because she has, I feel like, such beautiful kind of little kind of rosy.
Yeah, apple cheeks.
Apple cheeks. And I can see that being a thing that they didn't like. So I'm going to go with cheeks.
Okay, so we got 1 for cheeks, we got 1 for breasts, we got 1 for teeth. Mm-hmm. The correct answer was, in fact, teeth. They were pressuring her to try and get her teeth done for Spider-Man.
Oh, stupid.
Yeah.
And she said no, and
good for her.
Did well, did just fine. Everybody.
So wait, Spider-Man made money. Was okay?
Yeah, it did all right.
They made 3 of them.
Okay. Our next question. Julie Chen A former newscaster and longtime host of Big Brother in the U.S. was told that she didn't have the looks to make it in Hollywood and that she needed to, 1, look less Chinese, 2, get breast enlargement surgery, 3, dye her hair blonde, or 4, speak with a Cupid doll lilt.
Ooh.
Is this like one of those like
I'm
gotcha eat all of the above?
That was my first thought. Is
That's always your option. I mean,
I think it's all of those because it's just
I think it's all of them.
yeah.
got all of them. Got all of them.
Well, I'm thinking all of them because they all sound the same. Yeah, I'm going to go all the above. What the hell?
Okay, so the one that she has talked about at length is looking less Chinese.
Yeah.
The Big Brother host was told she needed to look less Chinese if she wanted to make it in Hollywood. Because of this, she ended. I mispicked this one. She did end up getting the cosmetic surgery done on her eyes. But what she says is once she did that, all she could see was her eyes anymore.
Yeah.
Like she just couldn't see anything else anymore. All right, last question for the day. When Dino De Laurentiis Sr.'s son introduced him to a young unknown he thought would be perfect for his upcoming movie, the aging director called the young ingenue ugly to her face when he thought she couldn't understand his Italian. Yeah. Without missing a beat, the future acting legend responded in perfect Italian, "Well, I'm so terribly sorry I'm not beautiful enough to be in King Kong." Who is the actress? Okay, Dan's going to go last.
I think I also know.
1, Meryl Streep. 2, Cher. 3, Jessica Lange. Or 4, Carrie Fisher.
Jessica Lange.
Okay, we got one for Jessica Lange. Michael?
I mean, it's Jessica Lange, I guess.
Okay.
No, it's Meryl Streep.
That is, in fact, Meryl Streep. She has told that story on several different interviews, including the Graham Norton show most recently.
Yeah,
So.
that she was too ugly to be in King Kong.
I had heard something like that. I didn't realize it was a King Kong story, though. I didn't realize she was up for that. But Meryl Streep,
Yeah, and the way
can we all just be Meryl Streep?
yeah, and the way she talks about it is that Dino De Laurentiis is like brings up Meryl walks in and Senior goes, "Ay, que bruta."
Yeah.
Jesus.
All right.
I feel like you don't need to know Italian to know what that means.
So, dear listener, do you think that I'm attractive enough to star against King Kong? Trevor, where could they tell us about that?
Well, we're on Instagram and Twitter as @BigFatGayPod. We're on Facebook as the Big Fat Gay Podcast. Leave us 5 stars there. Leave us 5 stars or a review on your preferred podcast platform. Support us on patreon.com/BigFatGayPod or see the articles we talked about at www.bigfatgay.com.
Nailed it.
Yeah. Maybe you're sitting listening to the podcast at your little old Hollywood makeup mirror, and then suddenly a fist comes through the window.
So watch out.
What? King Kong. It's beautiful. King Kong.
Twas the beautiful big booty that killed the beast.